Ahoy, mateys. Doing a little vlogging. I still want to do vlogging about the school shooting thing, but told myself I would stay off the politics because the YouTubes and our tech overlords don't like conservative politics. They value diversity of every kind other than diversity of thought. It just doesn't pay. So what are we going to talk about? Well, I'm going to admit something here. I'm getting a little bored with riding. I mean, I still enjoy it, but I find myself almost having to force myself to go ride every weekend. It's losing its appeal. Part of it is just riding the same old roads. As amazing as those roads are, I've been riding the same basic general area at least once, if not twice a weekend for probably 35 to 40 weekends of the year for 20 years. Well, 18 years. And I'm getting a little bit bored. I feel like I need a change. Whether that means finding different areas to ride in. I'm not going to ditch the street and go to all track because that'll take up all my weekends and it's really expensive and just And that was another reason why I went down to one bike from two. Yeah, I've got the car and I'm spending a lot of time in that, which is probably what's helping fuel this. Part of it is I'm just 52 and just kind of like, I'm not like, I'm getting over it. I'm just, I don't know. I'm not feeling as motivated. When I go out, it's a nice day. I'm like, I'm going to go play in the twisties. My first inclination is to take the car. And I think part of that's what's fueling, not the dissatisfaction with biking, but just more of a growing apathy. The bike's a blast. Nothing wrong with the bike. If I was on a different bike, I mean, that would be, the newness would entertain me for a week and I'd be right back where I started. But it's definitely been on my mind lately. So, the car's feeding into it because I have a car that is faster than this. It's just as fast and capable in the turns because of the grip, better braking, stability, all that stuff. You know, and for me, I got into motorcycles because I wanted the exhilaration and performance, and at the time I couldn't afford it in a car. And especially back in the mid-90s, you know, there's no cars at that time that anybody could afford that would touch a bike, right? And even 15 years ago, you know, let's say 20 years ago, a 600 would pretty much annihilate any bike, any car that anybody was going to reasonably have, unless it was some crazy built monster that was barely street legal. And even then, it'd probably be crazy fast in a straight line, but suck in the turns. You'd have some, like, you know, old Nova with some 1,000 horsepower supercharger sticking 3 feet out of the hood kind of thing, you know. Okay, yeah, that's going to be fast in a straight line with drag slicks, giant tires, but, you know, as a practical car, there really wasn't anything out there that could really touch a bike. But cars in the last 20 years have come so far. Bikes have changed a bit, the leader bikes anyway, but 600s are making basically, you know, 10 horsepower more. 600s on average have grown about 10 horsepower in 20 years. Cars have doubled and tripled in horsepower in that time, not even counting EVs. So it's like, I'm getting a lot of jollies that I would normally get on a bike because that was the only place I could get it. Now I'm getting it in the car. I mean, I'm running a bike pace up in the mountains. hanging with my bike friends. Might be one road they could go a little faster on, and then there'll be another road where I've got the corner grip and I can go a little faster on. Because if I slide a little bit, I'm not worried about going down, right? So most, or not most, but now we have cars that are on a parity with bikes in a lot of ways. Yeah, on a sheer open road, of course a Boost is still going to dust me, although technically, unless they're easy to use flash, my Corvette has a higher top speed than a Busa. The Boost is limited to 187. I should be able to pull into the low 190s. Anyway, I'm also missing off-roading. There are times of the year where I just wasn't feeling like riding on the street, or it was cold, and I would jump on an ATV and go to Durham Town or go to the mountains, Iron Mountain, or go to West Virginia and make a trip out of it. And I kind of miss that. I miss crossing rivers and mudding and all that kind of fun stuff. I miss my ATV. I had a nice Sportsman 850, Polaris Sportsman 850 SP, which had the upgraded suspension, diff locks. Thing made 80 freaking horsepower. 80 horsepower in an ATV is a lot. I think it did 70 miles an hour. It was fast as hell. The thing would wheelie. I could drift it through the sweeper turns at Durham Town at like 45 miles an hour and just drift it. The thing was amazing. 3,500 pound winch on the front. Do some mudding, hill descent control, like all kinds of shit. I miss doing that. I miss ripping around through the woods and climbing and mudding, and I found myself, I just went and met up with Dean and them, and they're all going to the mountains, and I was like, well, what route? And they told me, and there's nothing wrong with it, and I'm not dissing on them in any way, but I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna pass. I'm just bored. I've been riding the same roads for freaking ages. But to get to roads that are going to be a little bit more different and I don't ride as much, then you got to ride an hour to hour and a half just to get to those roads. So it's a bigger time commitment. So I was talking to my wife about it, and I'm like, I'm not hanging up my leathers yet, but I'm kind of like, the seed is planted in my head. I am loving that car. And I'm like, you know what? If I got rid of the bike, I could upgrade my car to a Z06, a new one. I wouldn't get a Z01. That's crazy money. But find a 1-year-old low mileage Z06. Give me an extra 170 horsepower and higher revs and all that shit. Better brakes, better handling. And shit, I could go start doing track days in the car. And that's kind of where my head's at. I'm just thinking about these things, and it's like, I don't want to get out of motorcycling yet, but I've got to find something that renews my interest in it. And it's not going to be track days, and it's not any ding against my friends or anything like that. Like, oh, I'm bored with them. I'm bored with Jimmy because he only rides 2 cycle gear, and that's it. But I need some variety, man. I love sushi, but I think if I ate sushi 5 days a week for 18 years, I'd probably start getting sick of sushi, and I'd be happy with just a sandwich just because it's different. So that's where my head's at. So I'm gonna think of something to do today. Someone to ride. I mean, how can you not want to drive a car like that? That's my car, but different color. It says Z06. So right now, we're going to go to little Nicky's house for a second, because apparently he was supposed to be on this group ride that Dean and them were on, and he got into an accident, or someone backed into him or some shit. Who has a fucking Maybach and lives in a little townhouse here? That house costs more. Oh, there's his accident. That house costs more. What's up, guys? Fall down, go boom? Yeah. That's what I heard. I was like, oh, let me come over to Nick's house and see what's going on. I was doing a little vlogging. Say hi.
Hi.
Ouch. Know what backup cameras are for?
No, I mean, she didn't even look to see if I was coming.
Just whipped it out and bang?
Whipped it out, yeah, and I didn't even have any time to, like, I was coming, it's clear, you know, somebody was walking their dog, I waved at their dog, and right when I turned back, the car's right there.
Yeah.
I didn't have no time to hit the brakes or anything.
Is there a track day at Road Atlanta today?
Always. Friday through Sunday. Friday through Sunday, you hear it all the time.
Trying to see if that's cars or bikes, but
It's either or, yeah. All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Sounds like cars.
yeah.
I mean, you look both ways when you come out of the ground.
I do. Yeah.
People do.
Let's see. Let's record the damage here. So you got fender, borked. Yeah, horn. All right. Plastics, this. You're not leaking coolant. That did its job.
Not leaking any oil, not leaking any brake fluid.
No Earl.
The tank is
You touch down here. Oh, from you. That can probably be repaired. It won't total it for that, but. So you just went down on the right side? Mirror's a little crooked. Yeah. Would your dick dent the tank? She's like, yeah.
Not the leathers, but these.
Oh, really?
These. My dick poked out of it.
His wrist was broken, though.
Oh, you broke. Yeah, your hand does look a little swollen.
Yeah, he broke it.
Oh,
The thing is,
shit.
hey, Mark,
Yeah.
we gotta get you to the hospital.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, you're broken.
Are you a switch hitter at least?
I can do it. I've had a good amount of
As soon as I
practice.
walked up here, I saw his wrist, and I was like, you're broken.
Yeah.
You're already broken.
That sucks.
I know, dude.
When you're supposed to go on a ride, like on our ride to Way Road up to the Dragon, and I dropped my bike off the lift in the garage before we even left and smashed the bike up. And I was like, pfft.
The light turns on and it's fine.
Do not turn it on right now. Do not.
You want to ride it back? I can ride it. Where's your house from here?
It's literally right around
Yeah.
the corner.
Do you want to keep it here until they're done? Or you want me to ride it over to your driveway?
They're done. I'm not sure. Let me ask the officer, but you can.
You didn't have your camera running by any chance, did you? Ah.
I didn't even have it on my. I have it in the bag, but I didn't put it on.
Because you're always like, oh, it's not going to happen. And the times I don't turn my camera on, that's when I have a bear run out in front of me or some shit happens. And I'm like, I really wish I had the camera running.
I didn't have the camera on me.
His wrist is broken, so I'm going to drive it over there for him.
You know where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'll be there in just
Can I wheelie past the cops on your bike?
Oh wow! Look, is that bent or is that like that?
Nah, it's like that.
Like that. Bring the car,
All right. His handlebars are crooked. God, I love how smooth Yamaha gearboxes are. This was a good bike. Yeah, his wheel is like... His wheel's crooked too.
his wheels great. Can I move my car
Yeah.
over to the garage and you bring it in?
Yeah.
Is it?
Maybe that's what I'll do today. Maybe I'll take the car back and go get the bike. Go take the bike back and go get the car. Take him out in the car. Yeah, his wheel's crooked. I mean, that can be tweaked just by getting it up on a stand. And so there's nothing on here other than the tank that we can't fix in the garage. So that's good. Mirrors are easily replaced. Tightened. Levers are good. The bike's not in right away. No, honestly, I was just vlogging here, and I'm like, honestly, we could. There's nothing on here other than the tank that we couldn't fix in my garage. It's really just bolt-on parts and straightening a couple things.
Okay.
The tank is the only thing, which doesn't affect how it rides, but you'd have to go to like a dentless tank removal place. They might be able to take the sticker off and pull it out, or a piece of metal they run in the side and they poke it out.
Please let Nick know that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not that much damage here. Blinker, that's easy. Actually, that might have just popped out. I think. I think I can get that fixed just by popping that back in. Ugh. Yep. Yeah, honestly, the blinker is actually almost fixed. You just got to poke that in with a screwdriver. We can get that in there. The only parts that have to be replaced, I mean, it's cosmetic. The fender, this, the horn bracket.
It's just whenever he'll actually be doing it, I think he broke it good.
Yeah. It's probably $500 or $600 worth of stuff. It's not horrible. Was that?
That's not bad at all.
No.
Let me check the
All right, I'll walk back up there. All right, well, I'm going to turn this off and come back a little later maybe. We'll see in a bit. Ooh, what the hell is that? Some kind of kit car or old Mercedes maybe? Alright, so it looks like Nick might have broken his hand or wrist. Yeah, so apparently he was just going through a subdivision and this woman just floored it, backed out. Probably she got 5 kids in the car, not paying attention, just backed out right into him. Bang. Nothing horrible damage-wise. The dent in the tank is the biggest thing. You can get that out. Dent removal place can do that. That's 1 o'clock. I'll go ride some more and vlog, I guess. See where we end up. So he gets off the ground. She hit the bike and knocked him off it. And so he comes up and asks her, first thing out of his mouth is, "Are you okay?" And she starts yelling at him how it was his fault. And it's like, dude, you're backing out of the driveway into a road. Just because it's in a subdivision, so you're automatically at fault. You're always to yield to the traffic when you're pulling out of a side street or pulling out of a driveway. So she was cited. Cops got her insurance and everything on the record, so Nick can go pull that report tomorrow or Tuesday whenever it gets filed. And I don't know what the deductible is. It's probably $500 or $600 in damage. He'll need a new damper, but it's an Amazon damper, so that's easy. It did scratch the fork, but as long as it's not gouged into it or anything. I don't think the forks are bent, although the wheel is definitely crooked by like 3 degrees. I think as long as nothing's bent, we'll be able to just put that in the lift, relax all the pinch bolts and get it straightened, and then tighten everything back up. I think we'll be good on that. So the tank's the biggest thing, but it didn't scratch it. It was from him, his pelvis, or his knee. Some part of him hit the tank and dented it. But luckily, it's not deep enough to crack the paint, I don't think. And then the rest is plastics. There's a little windscreen, maybe the mount underneath if we can't bend it back. I'm sure we can bend it back, get it good enough. Didn't break any levers, didn't break the peg. Just a little bit of rash on them, but honestly, we could just, I could put a high grit belt on my belt sander, and we could probably just take those pieces off and just kind of hit them with a wire wheel or whatever. You can make it look like nothing, basically nothing happened. They're just cast parts that are kind of rough finish anyway, so we'll smooth it out with a little bit of sandpaper. And no engine oil leaking, no coolant, no hit to the radiator, because his frame slider on that side did its job, protected the radiator and the case. So good job there. I mentioned no levers broken. Yeah, his mirrors got scratched up a little. Those are $70 a set, not a big deal. So yeah, we'll get him back up and running pretty quickly. The biggest thing, honestly, the biggest thing getting him back on the road is going to be his right hand. So we'll see how that goes. That sucks for him. I think that's his first accident. I think. Maybe once he did put his Harley down. I don't remember. I think there was something that happened with his Harley that he had to get fixed at one point. But if he's just tooling around in the subdivision and doing anywhere near the speed limit, someone backs out into him. I mean, nothing they can do about that. So where was I? Oh yeah, well, I'm thinking of leaving motorcycle. I'm just very tentatively wondering if it's the beginning of me maybe going, time to move on to the next stage in my life. And not because I'm old or anything like that, it's just I'm getting bored. It's not as exciting to me as it was. Or it is as exciting, but because it's no longer my only means of getting my speed fix. And frankly, there's things I like about the car better. You could talk about, well, the freedom of a bike, whatever. That's a dumb notion. Bike is freedom. Going where you want when you want is freedom. How many wheels it has, you don't know. Well, there's not a scale that says the amount of freedom you have is tied to a linear number, equation of how many wheels you have. So I hate that stupid Geico commercial with this woman trying to sound pensive and insightful with her dead. Cars lie to us. Motorcycles tell us the truth. Shut up. Cars can be boring and bikes are typically fun. That's the message. Motorcycles don't tell you the truth. Cars don't lie to you. It depends on the car. If you're driving a Camry, yeah, it's probably boring as fuck. If you got a Porsche, if you got a Lambo, if you got a souped up Audi, you got a Corvette, you got a nice Mustang GT500. Pretty sure those speak to, I know they do, they speak to you as well. Might be a different language or a different dialect or accent, but they're telling you the same goddamn thing. Trying to make it sound like motorcycling is this profound experience. It's fun. Just say that. Say it's fun. Anyway. But with having, cars today are just amazingly capable. You can go right now, get a new generation, the S650 platform, Mustang GT, and if you want the manual, you can get the manual. You can go get a 485 horsepower Mustang for like $44,000. That's not that much money. Not in today's world. And especially not for a car that, would eat the Lambos from 20 years ago. That's at your any local Ford dealership. So, then you get up into the Dark Horse or GT500s or Demons and Corvettes and stuff. You're going to get an amazing amount of performance for nowhere near as much money as you think. I'm not going to say they're cheap. I don't want to be insensitive to someone who's like, oh yeah, easy to say. It's still $80,000. Yeah, it is. It's not cheap, but in the world of performance, to get that kind of performance, you used to have to do one of two things: pony up for an upper level Ferrari or Lambo, or go buy a $12,000 motorcycle. And that's kind of where this whole train of thought started. For many, many years, I could not afford an exotic supercar. So what did I do? Went and bought a bike, because that I could afford, and that offered supercar levels of performance on the cheap, pennies on the dollar, I always say. Actually, I'd never say that. I mean, I just did, but now you can go get an Audi RS3. 45 grand. You could go buy a really nicely set up freaking Golf, VW Golf R. Civic Type R's. Yeah, they're Civics, they're Golfs, they're not exotics by any means, but go look at the performance stats on them. They're fast little cars. And they're economical. And they handle really well because they're small and light and agile and all that stuff. It's like a lot of fast cars out there these days. To the point where if you want to hang with them, you better have yourself a leader bike. And sometimes that ain't even enough if they get into modded cars. There are a lot of modded cars on the road. GTRs, supercharged Corvettes, Whipple blown Mustangs and stuff that will give leader bikes a hard time. And some of those things, you get these 1,500 horsepower monsters, they will smash a 1,000cc bike. So now they're going to cost 8 times as much as the bike. But anyway, but that's kind of where my head's at. I'm just like, I love riding this thing, but I'm like, I don't want to move. And the problem is to get to more interesting, lesser traveled roads that I can't, do in my sleep, that are more engaging because I'm not half on autopilot because I know it so well. I gotta ride 2 hours just to get there. And it's usually a boring ride on the frickin' highway. And there is a bit with trying to get a group of people together. I've had this all through my riding career. Met a lot of great people. But most of them don't. I'm one of the few that still consistently rides from the people that I started with. Now, Dean rides all the time, Cameron rides all the time, but they're also relatively new overall in my riding career. What happens typically is I find a good group of people to ride with. We ride all the time, and then one of them, like Jonathan, gets a girlfriend and you never fucking hear from him again. Other folks get married and have kids, and the wife makes them sell the bike. And that happens a lot. Now, it's getting married and having kids doesn't happen as much because of my age bracket. But for the longest time, it was like I go through a riding core of, a group core of BFF riders every 3 years. Because every time you'd find a good group and hang out, one of them would get a girlfriend, the other one gets married, the other one that was married but still rode now as a kid, so now he can't ride. And their lives pull them in. There's nothing, not a dig against them, it's just whatever. They get these other constraints and life pulls them in other directions. And I've never had kids. I can kind of, for the most part, just do what I want. So I'm the one sort of constant in all that, which has prolonged my riding career. But at the same time, it makes it boring sometimes because more than half my riding is what you see right now. It's me riding around by myself. And I'm not saying because my friends suck. I mean, Jonathan sucks, but I was going to make another joke, but I'm going to be now. Even though he's got a good sense of humor. Wouldn't take. I'm gonna be the better Dave and not be. Love you, Cam. Anyway, but like Jimmy used to ride all the time. No, he just doesn't anymore. Got a beautiful R1. Ride. Jonathan rode, went out and got 2 bikes. Went out and bought a street triple. Oh, I'm gonna be riding. It's gonna be awesome. I love this bike. I should have bought it years ago. I have a girlfriend now. Bye. You never see him again. See the dude every 2 months. And it's fine. Do what makes you happy. My only problem, and this is a me thing, not a them thing, is that if my hobby and the enjoyment of the hobby is based on the camaraderie and having a group of people that you enjoy being around, everybody knows how everybody rides, so there's a familiarity and a comfort level riding with them. When I go ride with new people, I don't know what their skill level is. I don't know the nuances of the dynamics of the group. They could be faster than me. They could be slower than me. They could be sketchy as fuck. And if I go in riding, when I ride with Dean and I ride with Cameron, I know what they're going to do. I know where they're fast. I know where maybe they don't push as hard. I know that if I see Cameron's wheel right there, I don't have to worry about him hitting me. There's a consistency in it and a predictability, which when you're going to up the pace and, be an idiot, you need to have that comfort level of, if I'm distracted because the guy in front of me is squirrely and he's stabbing the brakes when I'm expecting him to get on the gas and drive off the turn, and he's wobbling and hitting the brakes for some reason while I'm starting to, you do everything because you have to think ahead when you're riding fast. That's why you don't look in front of the road. You look way the fuck up there. You look through the turn. See what's up the road, because if you have to react to it, you can't wait till it's there. By the time you go, oh, and that thought forms in your head, you're already plowing over it or into it or through it. So in order for me to not hyper-focus on what Cam and Dean and them are doing, I have to just sort of instinctively know and be able to predict it based on my history of riding with them. So, you never take your mind off it, right? You don't just make complete assumptions. But I know when I'm riding with Cameron and Dean that I can pretty much, as long as I know roughly where they are, what they're doing, I can basically just focus on the road, and I don't have to worry about them doing something stupid in front of me or smacking into the back of me. When you get with a new group, I don't know that. So it kind of takes you out of your zone. And you have to kind of readjust and say, okay, how fast can I go with these guys? Am I comfortable? If that dude's right on my tail, do I have to worry about that? Do I need to let him pass me? Should I speed up? If he is in front of me, can I trust that he's not going to do anything dumb? And I'm looking up through the turn and he's right in front of me and hits the brakes hard. Bang. Anything can happen at any time, but anything you can do to reduce the risk is what you need to do as a rider. And having good, skilled, consistent, and predictable riders in your group is paramount. And no different if you had a sports ball team, right? Everybody figures out everyone's plays. You can tell by the body language what, okay, he's going to fake this, and I need to run that way and to catch the sports ball, whatever. But when you go say, all right, well, here's 80% new players, and then you run out into that first couple games, you got to figure it all out all over again, and it throws you off your game. Probably not winning. So trying to get to some of those new roads and things, and again, most of the time I'm doing it by myself, which is fine. I get to vlog and do whatever, and sometimes I just zone out and do my thing. But then part of me is like, I don't know, what if I ran into a bike problem? What if I ran into a medical issue? And the ride, the real mountain road didn't start until 2 hours from my house, like I'm going up to South Carolina or something like that, or North Carolina. And I'm up, in a twisty road miles out of cell phone range, my bike breaks down. What if I hit some gravel and I'm sitting down in a ravine with a busted ankle? No one knows where the fuck I am. Like, these are all real concerns when you ride any kind of bike, not even a sport bike. Cruiser guys crash all the time, but when you're riding on a sport bike at an accelerated pace, you obviously increase the chances of a mishap. And so riding by myself all the time, my wife doesn't ride much anymore. She just doesn't have the time. She wants to start trying to ride every other weekend. We'll see. But as it is, I ride with her maybe 4 times a year instead of every weekend like it used to be, because she's got multiple grandkids and there's always some drama going on with one of the kids, or you know, she's messing with her camper. You know, she's just life. Other aspects of your life and obligations get their hooks in you. Right? It is what it is. You know, if I had multiple kids and grandkids and all that kind of shit, I'd be in the same boat. And I think because it's also just something I've done for so long, not just the same roads, but just every weekend, both days on the bike. I don't know. I just wonder if it's time to change the pace. Should I do legit touring? The problem is, you know, you got 6 dogs and a sick mother-in-law that can't take care of herself at the house. It's not fair for me to just take off weekends and go, you know, touring or adventure touring, off-roading and camping, you know, whatever it is I want to, you know, and leave her home having to take care of everything. So yeah, I don't know. It is a quandary. Yeah, part of me wants to get back into shooting more. Well, that pretty much has to be on weekends if I'm going to go to an outdoor range and shoot rifles and get back into that stuff. Well, that's not the kind of thing where you're like, oh, let me go do that. I got to get a truck because the outdoor range can't get in there in my vet, so I got to borrow Donna's truck and hope she doesn't need it for anything, or I got to have Jimmy drive. And that means getting out there. It's an hour each way and doing the shooting and then coming home and cleaning. Your day's pretty much shot. Same thing with ATVs. Got to go get a trailer. Got to hitch it up. Got to go get all your stuff for riding done, and the nearest place is an hour each way, and that's the closest place. And then what do you do afterward? You got to come home, got to clean the gear, got to spend an hour and a half pressure washing the ATVs and then cleaning up the driveway. I don't know. Just don't know. I love this bike. I like what it represents. I love when I ride it. But it's not doing as much for me as it used to. Like, part of me right now is like, I should just go home and get the car, put the top down, go rip around in a brand new convertible Corvette. And I'll have just as much fun, but I'll be more comfortable. And my wife calls and says, hey, can you stop and pick something at the store up on the way home? I can do that. I could drive past a gun dealership and say, wow, they got half off shotgun deals. I could go in and get one. Can't really do that here. So, even now, I'm just like, I don't even know where I'm going. Driving somewhere, but it's like I don't really have any plans. It's a beautiful day. It's like, what, 80 degrees out? Actually, that's reading high. Probably 78. Low humidity. It's gorgeous. and I'm kind of bored. And I think that's the other part of the equation is every time you swing a leg over this, or any bike, you're putting your life at risk, more so than being in a car or anything else. Not anything else, I guess skydiving is more risky, but you know what I mean. I'm taking the most dangerous and likely to injure, paralyze, or kill me mode of transportation that I can realistically choose. And you take that risk because you love the performance and the passion, and you're like, well, that's just part of it. But if you're taking the risk, and you're doing it because you feel like you should, because you paid for the bike and you're paying for insurance, you're taking the risk. But if you're bored, then you're kind of like, why am I at right now? Like you're seeing Nick, just freaking 25 miles an hour in a subdivision, just got his bike banged up and likely broke his hand or wrist. Do you risk your life for something that you're just kind of like bored and going through the motions just to do because you feel like, well, you should? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being mopey. Odometer off. Oh. Ducati should come up with a better way of doing this, because you got to turn your signals off. You hit the button once, but if you're like, did I turn them off? So you hit the button again, you end up resetting the trip odometer. Normally, you'd have a long press of 3 seconds for it to go, oh. But for you to just hit the button and it just resets it, dude, that's stupid. I love Ducati, but there's always something about either, like, here's a screw you have to adjust every 1,000 miles. Where is it? Oh, it's in between the cylinder heads, underneath the air box, behind a plug that's red. It's, you know, got red Loctite, about 3 ounces of it. It's like, what? Oh, and human hands won't fit in there. Say what now? Like, why would I have to go through all these ridiculous steps for something that's common and normal to have to do pretty periodically? But they always have quirky little things like that. It's the Italian way. Or it's like Suzuki. Hey, we're going to use standardized metric things and Phillips screwdrivers for everything other than that screw that you'd use to adjust the clamp for your brake or whatever. You know, it'd be like a screw right there, and you're like, oh, let me go grab my Phillips. And then you realize it's not in Phillips, it's Imperial, but it's soft aluminum, and you don't figure it out until after you strip it, and you're like, how the hell did that just happen? Oh, it's Imperial. It looks like a Phillips. No, it's off by about 1 millimeter. What? Why would you do that? And only on that screw. Oh, that's just how we do it. That's stupid. Stop doing that, is what I wish I had said to them.